Hi everybody, my name is Lianna Carrera and I'm one of the hosts of The Q Agenda. I recently decided to write a book. I'm a comedian. I travel through the United States, Africa, and Ireland, making jokes at everybody's expenses, including my own. And I decided to use my comedy powers for good. Have you ever been to a wedding? Okay, people still believe in love, and they happen. And if you've ever been to a wedding, and it's the reception that comes around, you have people that stand up that have been asked to make speeches, right? And oftentimes, these speeches, they come out a little awkward. The father of the bride might sob into the microphone the whole time, or maybe the best man gets way too personal or mean, kind of roasting his friend, that it becomes a shit show pretty quickly. So that's why I put out a book, and this book is called, here it is, Alda's gonna put it right here for me. It's called Don't Fuck It Up, the 7 tips from a comedian to write a heartwarming and special wedding speech. I'm pretty sure that's not the title, but the point is, it's right here for you to see it. So here's the gist, guys. Comedians, the way that we approach things, the way that we write speeches, it isn't just like free form, you know what I mean? It's actually something that we set up with the principles of comedy on one hand, structure on the other hand. It feels like a happy accident, but it's a lot kind of like dancing ballet. It looks effortless, but it's really hard. There's lots of levers that we're pulling to make a speech go forward and to make it land. Now in comedy, there's something called a tight 5. And basically, when someone asks you to give a speech at a wedding, they're asking you for your best tight 5. Now, does this mean that you're gonna go through a series of jokes in 5 minutes and have to make the crowd laugh the entire time? No, but it does mean that you've got a 5-minute speech that you've worked on, that you have a beginning, middle, and an end, and that it's tight, meaning it doesn't sound like it wasn't rehearsed, or it doesn't sound like you're improvising it on the spot. And so that's the first rule here. If you've been asked to give a wedding speech, I cover this in the book, it's to think of it as your tight 5. This is your time to be on stage to give 5 minutes of love as a gift to the people that you've been asked to speak about. So inevitably, when you get asked to give a speech, you freak out, right? That's because public speaking of any kind actually triggers our flight or fight response in our brain. And so it's absolutely normal for you to freak out and be scared and panicked. Actually, you're in very good company. Jerry Seinfeld, Gilda Radner, myself have suffered from extreme stage fright, yet we work through it, we get on stages all around the world because it's normal to talk to your flight or fight response and say, it's cool, you've been asked to speak in public, but it's okay. Now, how do comedians get over that stage fright? Well, one of the ways we get through the stage fright is to understand that it's not about us. So if you've been asked to give a wedding speech and you're freaking out and you think it has to be perfect and you think you have to capture everything about the couple and all the eyes are gonna be on you, the main thing to do is to remind yourself that it's not about you at all. It's actually about the couple that you're talking about. That's called throwing the spotlight. It's not about you, it's about the couple. See, as comedians, we learn that we need to feed our confidence and not our anxiety. And so to have thoughts in your head, well, we feed our anxiety too, because the jokes, come from a little bit from anxiety, but we feed our confidence, especially moments before stage. We do not repeat to ourselves the thoughts that make us anxious. So remember, if you've been asked to give a speech, try to feed your confidence. You were asked to be this person for a reason. You're special to this couple in their life, and how cool is it that they've asked you to help share in this moment with them. Now, when you are done with the psychological trickiness of having to write, the thought of having to write a wedding speech, you can move on, right? And here is where comedy and the structures of comedy can really help you too. Comedy has something called the rule of 3s. That is, the rule of 3s can be seen in every punchline, setup punchline that we have. The rule of 3s can be seen in every examples that we give. And the rule of 3 is what I just did to you just now. I gave you 3 examples of the rule of 3. So I'm kind of pulling back the curtains here on comedy as well. But what it does is it gives you a baseline to know that you have 5 minutes and you have to follow the rule of 3s. Now the rule of 3 for a speech is going to be what? It's going to be like a hamburger bun. And again, I get more into this in the book. Now, 2 hamburger buns, right? You've got your intro, which is going to be a hook or something funny that you start with. Here's another little secret. No matter what you say at the top of your speech, it's gonna be funny. That's because there's so much tension that fills the room when all eyes sort of kind of look at you talking about the couple, there's a tension. And whatever you say is gonna break that tension. So don't be too nervous. You're gonna get that first laugh up top. But you take the top of your hamburger bun, and that includes the introduction. Hey, everybody. And this was me at my sister's wedding, right? My sister, who was very feminine, former Redskins cheerleader. Okay, we're very similar people. So when I got up at her wedding, I said, hey everybody, my name is Lianna, and I am my sister's older, more feminine, and then I messed it up. But that's okay, because even if I mess up right there, the audience still laughs. But you want to say who you are and how you know the person and make the joke up top. And this is your chance to segue. To segue into 3 stories that you know about this person. Now can't just find 3 stories out of nowhere on the spot. You take a notebook and you think about your relationship with these people and you write stories. Now, a lot of people think comedy has to be funny, and the truth of it is comedy comes from tragedy, right? Comedy is just tragedy plus time. If you think of your comedy like a tree, you've got sort of roots in tragic things, and over time it grows into beautiful branches, which are your jokes and kind of your lighter-hearted thoughts. So don't be afraid to write down things about your friendship that maybe caused a more serious moment, because humor and light will come from that. The last thing I want to say, because there's so much good stuff in this book, but the last thing I want to say is that once you figure out your 3 stories, and you have the top of your hamburger bun, and the 3 stories are the meat, and the outro is the bottom of the hamburger bun, that hamburger bun on the bottom, an old comic trick is to end how you begin, okay? So you can have an outro all about how you began. So if you said, hey, my name is Lianna, I've known Joanne since we were in the 1st grade, and man, wow, we got in trouble, huh? You know, you're just making fun, you're like, well, I'm here today because I'm so happy to be here. You're telling stories. Well, at the very end, I might call back, and I might say, I'm so happy that you 2 have found each other, but not as happy as I am that I sat next to you in the 1st grade. Do you see that? And then the audience goes, oh, right? So call back at the very end. So that's kind of like your little comedy philosophy hamburger, if you will. But definitely go check out my book. It's on Amazon Kindle, and you can download the Kindle app if you don't have a Kindle. And you can read, actually have a walkthrough of for you to use comedy to give an awesome wedding speech.